All right. It's funny, the nicknames people get. After about 2 weeks traveling with the convoy, everyone started calling me Soulless. I guess when nobody expected it to be as bad as you did, everyone gets shocked at what they see, and you just glance at it and keep moving. I guess that does seem pretty soulless to those who can't comprehend that kind of behavior. Me, on the other hand, I call it being a realist. I'm going to see it once, I'm going to see it twice, I'm going to see it 1,000 times before my end comes. Might as well get used to it now. Hell, everyone might as well get used to it now. It was only after a few short months, and when I say short, each one felt like an eternity of living in this lawless hell we call home. Hell, compared to this, eternity seems short. Anyway, after a few of these months, they nicknamed me Antihero. At least, that's what they took to calling me. Antihero. Whoever finds this and listens to this, I'll assume you have no idea what that means, so I'll give you a little insight as to what an antihero is. An antihero, if you're watching one, is the kind of person you root for, even though you really kind of hate him. That's the easiest way I can describe it anyway. Sorry, no big definition here. He's a total asshole, a dick. Part of you wants to see him die. But then the other part of you wants to see him succeed. So I guess that's better than soulless. But I guess that shows how some people have come to view me. Not that I care. The few people I do care about know who I am and know why I do what I do. The Chancellor and a handful of others. The anti-hero. Well, I guess I have to give a little bit of a backstory as to why they call me that. I've done a lot of crazy shit in my life. But when the fall came, I guess I saw the necessity to be able to do crazier, be able to do worse. I used 3 women, friends of mine, friends of all of us. I used these 3 women to set a trap for cannibals. I used the Humvee to set a trap for bandits. Hell, I even rigged it to explode if we couldn't kill them all, or make them surrender. Bandits, surrender. 2 words that should never be used in the same sentence. Oh, and I also shot somebody in our convoy on the grounds that he was leaving a breadcrumb trail for a small organized group of militia. We'll go, yeah, we'll go with that. A small, well-organized militia. They outnumbered us 3-1, but they were 2 days behind, and I was 1 bullet ahead. Quite literally, actually. Anyway, the Chancellor had learned to trust him. And considering Jacob, the Chancellor, and myself, as tight-knit as we are, the Chancellor was the last person I expected to give his trust away to a traitor. If anyone, that was my job. But it happened. They put me under arrest because I didn't give him a fair trial. Apparently, the steady line of supplies that I witnessed him leaving behind for them to find didn't warrant enough evidence for a trial to be overlooked. So, I rotted in the hottest vehicle for 3 days. And when they finally figured out what had been going on via the dust cloud in the distance, the Chancellor let me out. Schulz gave me all my shit back, and the first words out of their mouths, what should we do? Lucky me, I had 3 days to prepare an answer for that question. Move everybody forward while we sit right here and wait. They thought I was friggin' nuts. I told them, go hide in the rocks and be invisible while I go talk to them. So, I stood in the middle of that damn road for 36 hours, waiting. Then they finally rolled up. I have to admit, I was impressed. 3 Humvees, wheels laden with spikes like a chariot, steel plating welded to the Humvee's normal armor. I mean, hell, these things could have taken a blow from a howitzer and would have been fine. If you're listening to this, a howitzer is a really big gun, like bigger than your mama. Something else you probably won't get. Anyway, 3 of those, spikes, chains dragging behind. Now that took me a minute, but I finally realized the chains were barbed for ensnaling other vehicles. 2 were mounted with 50s, and the last with a 20mm rifle. Talk about rare and deadly. Some high-class military-grade shit right there. And, on top of it all, 2 deuce and a halves. Again, with more armor and extremely spiky grill protection. Nothing we had would have punched through these. So, that's when my change of idea happened. You see, I was expecting them to be on motorcycles and shit cars, but no. We couldn't attack that. At least, not directly. So, diplomatic relations actually looked a little appealing. Yeah, I tried to talk. Why they all agreed to leave me in charge of diplomacy still escapes me. That's the Chancellor's job. But the old Chancellor? No, he wanted to be up on top commanding the troops with Jacob. So, they probably shouldn't have been so surprised, and probably should have been a lot less pissed when I shot the militia's commander. Then I realized that unlike most bandits, they were actually loyal to their leader and actually had some chain of command because someone took charge as soon as he hit the ground. I yelled that I tried talking and that the only options he was giving us was everything we had and to sell us as slaves or all our shit and us dead. So I gave him the alternative in the gut. Well, Jacob and the Chancellor managed to pick off the 250s and the 20 Mike. However, the guys pouring out of the deuce and a halves were a little closer to my issue. And with 16 minus 1, is that right? Yeah. And with 15 bullets and about 45 men, not including drivers, I was a little overpowered. So, I did the first thing that came to mind. I ran like hell. That caused the men to run after me, which left their asses exposed to get torn to shreds by the few men we had flanking the roads. They took them down to about 20. A little more manageable, but still too many for my personal preference. So, bobbing and weaving, I realized that the Humvees were now deciding to follow me. Most of the men had gotten the hell out of the way, so yeah, there were spikes and blades and shit that would have turned me into a nice pile of ground beef. Cannibals would have liked me. Sorry. Anyway, they were a bit more difficult to stay a step ahead of, but ducking into a tree line, their blades could only go so far before they hit something too thick for them to cut through. Once they were stuck, they were at my mercy. 2 rounds, 2 heads. 2 rounds, 2 heads. 2 rounds, the third was dead. 3 Humvees down, and the deuce and a halves. I really didn't give a shit about those. They weren't fast-moving vehicles. At least that's not why they had them. They were just heavily armored so that shit couldn't penetrate them, so that the men could travel in safety. So our men overwhelmed the trucks. However, I still had 20 men or so on my ass. Lucky for me, Jacob and the Chancellor decided to break off and hit the rest of them. It came down to 5 guys, 3 rounds, and some big knives. One guy had a machete. I had my combat knife. I've had it for a long time, actually. Had it before the fall. I still remember the name of it. The G.I. Tanto by a Old company called Cold Steel. Body armor kind of cowered at this thing. Aim for the joints. Dislocated elbow here. Almost torn off shoulder there. Beheaded with his own machete later. The fight didn't last long. It ended with me up to my elbows in blood and dreading the process of having to scrub all that off and getting it out of my clothes. Oh. Oh. Now I get it. I was more worried about cleaning the blood off of my arms and out of my clothes than the two guys I had just hacked to shreds. That's why they started calling me Soulless soon after. Well, one of the reasons, I'm sure. That's it. I guess it does fit. The Antihero. Antihero. I am the antihero of our little convoy. The antihero of our little journey. Hell, I could be the antihero for the entire fall of the human race. And you know what? That's fine by me. I'll claim it. And I'll use it. I am.